The Sultan of Sokoto, Mohammed Sayed Abubakar III, says Nigeria is sitting on a keg of gunpowder with its teeming youths without jobs, coupled with the rising poverty across the country. At a Northern Traditional Rulers Council meeting in Kaduna, the Sultan stressed that people are becoming impatient with government policies while urging public office holders to do more to address the plight of the people. Our correspondent, Nisi Gabriel, reports.
The Northern Traditional Rulers Council is convening in Kaduna State, and the major focus here is on security, poverty alleviation, education, and quality healthcare services as focal points in addressing regional challenges. During the meeting, which focused on enhancing security as a panacea for development in the north, the Sultan of Sokoto expressed concern over the escalating issues of hunger, rising cost of living, and insecurity, especially in the northern region.
And I've said it so many times, we're sitting on a keg of gunpowder. Having teeming youth, millions of them without job, without food, we are looking for trouble. But alhamdulillah, we believe in ourselves. We believe in Almighty Allah to bring support to all our problems. And we'll keep on praying, and we'll keep on urging our political leaders, whom we believe they will do something better.
Deputy Governor of Kaduna State, Hadiza Balarabe, who represented the Governor of Kaduna State, emphasized the crucial role of traditional rulers in creating public awareness to garner support for security forces in the ongoing fight against terrorism.
Northern Nigeria in recent times has been grappling with the challenges of insecurity. This region used to be not only an oasis of peace and stability, but also the food basket of the nation. Unfortunately, this same region has now become the epicenter of terrorism, banditry, and kidnappings. Northern traditional rulers must take the lead in the execution of psychological operations geared towards the winning of hearts and minds of the people at the grassroots.
Representatives of security chiefs highlight the role of informants as a challenge in the fight against insecurity, while they seek modern equipment, welfare, and public support.
The communities, we have informants to bandits, terrorists, and all the other threat perpetrators you can think about. But it's a bit complex. The informants keep frustrating the role of security agencies. And they live with us in the communities. They are indigenous, and by right, they have right to exist. And because of that right, it becomes a bit complex. This brings to mind the role of traditional rulers who knows all the indigenous and know how to have the structure to monitor activities of individuals.
The chairman of the 19 Northern States Traditional Council and the FCT hope that resolutions from this meeting will be implemented by political leaders to ease the economic hardship and insecurity bedeviling the North and the entire country. Nisi Gabriel, Arise News, Kaduna.
Nigeria sitting or on a keg of gunpowder. Dr. Bati, your take on this story?
Okay, yes, there have been a series of meetings in the northern part of the country, just as leaders in the south have also been meeting. Before now, there was the meeting of the coalition of northern groups, which was attended by leaders from the north. What happened yesterday was a meeting of traditional rulers and religious leaders, the Northern Traditional Council at the Arewa House in Kaduna, under the chairmanship of the Sultan of Sokoto, who is both a traditional ruler and also the leader of the Muslim faithful in Nigeria. That meeting was attended also by security chiefs, Chief of Defense Staff, DG, DSS, all persons within the security space who had been invited to come and rub minds with the Northern Traditional Council as to the situation in the country. Now, it was also attended by governors and their representatives. In other words, it was a meeting of minds for northern traditional rulers and religious leaders to review the state of the country. Now, this should not be surprising. Northern leaders have been meeting since 1959 to address the condition of the North within the Nigerian arrangement. And since that time, what have they been discussing? Majorly, they started discussing education, discussing the Nigerian arrangement and how the Nigerian arrangement can benefit everybody. But this particular meeting of the Northern Traditional Council is coming against a special background. At a period that Nigeria has transited from an APC government to another APC government, and at a moment of great economic hardship, deprivation, and despair in the country. And not surprisingly, in the general statement made by the Sultan of Sokoto, chairman of that occasion, he highlighted all of this. What are some of the points made by the Sultan reflecting a meeting of minds among northern leaders? One, that things are very hard in Nigeria. Things are not easy for everybody. He says the whole of Nigeria, and of course, especially in the north. And what are the issues he identified? Unemployment. 2, food crisis. 3, insecurity. And the fact that all of these issues, have resulted in anger and frustration on the part of the people. The Sultan went further to now say that, well, against this background, is the traditional rulers and the religious leaders in the north especially, who have been calming the people down and telling them that, look, there is hope, things will improve. But that the situation is so bad that it's getting to a point that, traditional and religious leaders in the north may not be able to calm the people down any further. And therefore, the Nigerian government has an obligation to address the frustration of the people, to address the anger of the people, to address the high level of poverty in the land, and to find jobs for our teeming youths. Okay, this is what everybody has been saying. So these are obvious issues, but amplified on the platform of the Northern Traditional Council. But the Sultan made a point that I think should be underlined. He said that, look, it's not that we lack solutions to problems in this country. It's good, we always come together, but the problem with Nigeria is that at the kind of forum that they had yesterday, people will leave the place with all those solutions. They will leave the solutions behind in the hall, and they will go to bed until there is another crisis. Olarotimi, playwright, distinguished professor, had articulated this in one of his writings, in one of his books, which he titled Holding Talks. Nigerians are very good at holding talks. We hold conferences, seminars, but nothing comes after. And the Sultan made the point that, yes, all the suggestions collated yesterday will be passed on to government. But what is important is implementation. As in everything in Nigeria, implementation is always the problem. However, all the issues identified by the Northern Traditional Council and articulated by the Sultan, these issues have been on the table. In the southern part of the country, people are talking about the same thing. The intelligentsia is talking about the same thing. Only last week, the Emir of Kano, His Royal Majesty Adobayero, the Emir of Kano, receiving in audience the First Lady of Nigeria, Mrs. Oluremi Tinubu, emphasized the same concerns and told Mrs. Tinubu emphatically to tell her husband that his government must deal with the issues of insecurity and poverty and unemployment in the land. But the major point that I think the Sultan made yesterday also is that this is APC to APC government. But what is important is that we must find solutions to our problems so that the restive youths of Nigeria, whether in the north or the middle belt or in the south, do not refuse to be pacified again. Hunger is not a friend of the human system. Hunger can lead to anger. Anger can fuel frustration further. And that is why the Sultan says Nigeria is sitting on a keg of gunpowder. The government at all levels, federal and subnational, both have a responsibility to make sure that that keg of gunpowder does not explode. They say a word is enough for the wise.
That keg of gunpowder must not explode. I'm almost tempted to say that I feel sorry and for this administration in terms of actual just empathy for the president. However, during campaigns, he had said, don't feel sorry for me. I know what I'm getting into. So I'll withdraw my feelings of sympathy and say that the president knew what he was getting into when he got into office. And yes, rightly so, the Sultan of Sokoto had mentioned that it cannot be an excuse because this is the same administration. It cannot be said that, oh, the previous administration mismanaged the economy and that's why we're here and suffering the effect of a previous administration, because this administration was well aware of that and they were also, it's under the same party. In fact, I recall that when the president during the campaigns went to Sokoto, the president at the time, President Buhari, had escorted him there to seek the support and endorsement of the Sultan of Sokoto. And President Tinubu had famously said then that, well, you cannot deny supporting me because seated here with me is the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So just to give a little background into that it's quite unfortunate that this is where we are now. Now, very quickly, let me give the situation of Venezuela, because this is what the PDP cited as when Nigeria was degenerating into. God forbid that happens, because at some point in about 2016 in Venezuela, we had massive looting of shops and food houses, supermarkets, not because people wanted to be criminals or the Venezuelans wanted to be criminals, just simply for the fact that people were hungry and they had a humanitarian crisis on their hands. Very similar script with Nigeria in terms of hyperinflation, mismanagement of their oil production, 29-year record low of oil production at the time in Venezuela, 2016. And the people resorted. In fact, it was ridiculous that headlines at the time seemed like there was an apocalypse, because there would be things around, Venezuelans looted ships carrying sardines, fish ships, because they just wanted to get something to eat. A vet shop was broken into and 2 horses, pregnant horses, were stolen just to be able, so that the people could kill the meat and eat. These were the kind of shocking headlines that were coming out from that country at the time. Now, this is a fair warning by the Sultan of Sokoto in terms of the fact that whilst we're sitting on this, let's not allow things to spiral out of control such that we are now faced with a bigger situation than what we have currently on our hands. And in order to do this, very clear, and it is what we have called for a number of times. In fact, the Sultan echoed the feelings and thoughts of many Nigerians and what we had spoken about a number of times on this show, which is what can be done. We need to tackle unemployment, job security, especially for young people. When people are idle, beyond the fact that they have opportunities to think up and be susceptible to crime, it's also the fact that they also don't have income to feed themselves or feed their families, for those who have family members. Then we also had to sort the issue of insecurity. Now, unfortunately, it almost seems as if this administration has handled the matter of insecurity with kids' gloves. And you had to wonder that if this is not decisively dealt with, we're going to be looking at a crisis on our hands. And so whilst we're playing, softly with with crime, kidnapping, bandits, we still have some people. Yesterday I had a call. It's now prayers and let's raise money for an uncle or an auntie or a relative that has been held captive by kidnappers. And it seems like there's no show of political will to see that this is being handled. I want to assume that following the meetings upon meetings with security chiefs, there are plans being had in order to tackle the issue of insecurity. It's almost as bad as we've never seen it before. This administration came into a tough situation. There's no doubt about it. However, during the season of campaign, it was said again and again that we understand the issues and we are ready to tackle the issues, and Nigerians should not feel sorry for us. We don't want to have protests breaking out across the 36 states. We've already had in Niger, in Kano, in Ondo State. Let it end there. Let people eat. Let there be productivity. Cut governance so that we can streamline or rechannel that money to feeding the people and creating an atmosphere where people can actually create jobs and get employed. a myriad of issues. However, this government, it's time to sit up. Traditional rulers have said speaking, the members of the Nigerian community have said speaking, something needs and has to be done urgently. Move on to our next story. The UK and the Nigerian government have signed a memorandum of understanding that will enhance trade and investment partnerships between both countries. This is designed to grow the UK and Nigeria's already thriving trading relationship, which totaled £7 billion as of September 2023. Arise correspondent Punarimam Benjamin tells us more.
The Enhanced Trade and Investment Partnership is the first that the United Kingdom has signed with an African country. The UK Minister for Business and Trade, Kemi Badenoch, explains that this partnership will create opportunities across several sectors that are crucial to both economies, such as financial and legal services. This partnership is to boost trade and investment and unlock new opportunities for UK and Nigerian businesses.
It also lays the groundwork for further collaboration on the UK's ambitious developing countries trading scheme that has granted preferential access for almost 3,000 Nigerian products, benefiting both Nigerian exporters and UK consumers. But as I've said throughout my time in this visit, signing this agreement is just the first of many chapters to come. For both our countries to truly realise the benefits of ETIP, we must be committed to implementing and building on what we have agreed to.
The Nigerian government is promising to also remove barriers preventing UK lawyers from practicing international and foreign law in Nigeria, a step that could significantly increase UK legal services exports.
This administration and the ministry is taking decisive steps to attract capital investments that will transform our homegrown enterprises into global players. We have just recently concluded a stakeholder engagement with our domestic private equity and asset management firms towards the launch of an investment mobilization initiative aimed at increasing local and foreign investment as a catalyst for economic growth in Nigeria.
And we are glad that the content is pleasing. I've been asked that beyond this signing, Nigeria is confident that necessary action will follow the signing.
The British High Commission expressed worry over Nigeria's security challenges while calling for a more proactive approach to fight the scourge to encourage more business opportunities.
We held security and defence talks with the Federal Republic of Nigeria, very successful talks, and we have a partnership there too. And we are very conscious in this very difficult world that there can be no prosperity without security, but nor can there be long-term security without prosperity. And so this pillar of our partnership with the great country of Nigeria, it comes as a sister agreement to our security and defence. We can show that we can talk the talk, we need to walk the walk. And this MOU provides a fantastic platform for our two governments to work together, both to ease the restrictions on trade and investment, but also to help navigate each other's systems.
The partnership is coming at a time when Nigeria is grappling with economic challenges, and officials from both nations are hopeful that the MOU could boost investment opportunities. Punaraman Benjamin, Arise News.
Dr. Bati, you talked about this partnership, you touched on it yesterday. So here's just some more detail with regards to that trade partnership between the UK and Nigeria.
Well, Nigeria and the United Kingdom have been very, long partners, major partners, both for historical, bilateral, and economic reasons. So the UK is clearly, one of our major partners, with almost about 3,000 UK companies doing business in Nigeria. Now, so it's a good idea to see that, the Trade and Business Minister of the UK, Kemi Badenoch, coming to Nigeria to meet with our counterpart in Nigeria to signal, these strong relations. And we seem to have an emotional attachment to the matter. Kemi Badenoch also being of Nigerian descent. The other time, the Americans sent Wale Adeyemo, who is an Ibadan-raised man, but now, Assistant Secretary of the Treasury in the United States. So the symbolism of it is also very important. But as they say, the devil is in the details. What we were told is that at the end of the 3-day visit, or in the course of the 3-day visit by, Mrs. Badenoch, she signed an MOU called Enhanced Trade and Investment Partnership Agreement with the Nigerian government. Who was represented? Nigeria was represented by Ms. Douglas Aniti, our own Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment. And that MOU, in a flyer released by the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment, identifies the key benefits of the MOU signed. This includes, increasing export opportunities for Nigeria, removing trade barriers, promoting agribusiness, encouraging investment and foreign direct investment in the Nigerian market, film and creative industry collaboration, technology transfer. They also included in that their flyer, in other words, to deepen opportunities. And Kemi Badenoch, in our own statement, referred to all of this in terms of opportunities, particularly a comment on the creative industry in Nigeria, and also what can be done in the area of education. That's what I left out. And when she visited, she was involved in the commissioning or inauguration of Charterhouse School, which will be, a UK school here in Nigeria to reduce Nigerians going all the way to the UK. And then you have that independent UK institution in Nigeria here, and that school will start taking students by September. And then, of course, there was an industrial park that was also launched in Abuja. And then Mrs. Badenoch also visited the governor of Lagos State, who received her in audience, also in the course of that visit. But the question is this: does Nigeria have the capacity to address the trade deficit between the UK and Nigeria? At the moment, that 7 billion worth of trade relations is to the advantage of the United Kingdom. How do we do that? How do we fill that gap? How do we create opportunities for increased export that is talked about? Because at the end of the day, every country looks out for its own interests. And don't mind the fact that Kemi Badenoch is half Nigerian, half British, or Nigerian British. She was here as an agent of the United Kingdom, and what she will pursue will be the interest of the Nigerian government. Now, in that flyer released by the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment, there was something about legal services to the effect that lawyers in the UK, can now practice in Nigeria. Well, of course, the Nigerian Bar Association president has kicked in a statement to that effect, and that's Yakubu Mekiawu, OON, and also in the State of the Nation address by the NBA president yesterday, to say that this is ridiculous, and that UK lawyers cannot be asked to come and practice here. You just open the doors, and that even the UK will not do that to their own law society. Yes, there is cross-jurisdictional practice for persons who are called to the bar in Nigeria and to the bar in England and Wales. But to have this master-servant relationship was starkly rejected by the Nigerian Bar Association and by the community of lawyers in Nigeria. And I found it interesting that later today, the federal government of Nigeria issued a statement more or less apologizing to say there is no such agreement with regard to legal services between Nigeria and the United Kingdom. So the air has been cleared on that. But all these agreements, MOUs that we sign, we should always look out for the Nigerian interests. And I hope that some of these ministers, who sign these things, I hope they have enough education and enough understanding to know what they are signing.
Yeah. I think for me, that was what I was just going to center on, that the federal government, through the Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, Dr. Doris Aniete Ozoka, had come out to actually clarify what had been quite contentious in that particular earlier release. And just to assure Nigerians that under the MOU, and that's the Mutual Recognition Agreement, MRA, there's no such provision at all for UK lawyers to practice in Nigeria without going through due process, including going to the Nigerian law school. But beyond that, again, the detail, whilst we celebrate partnerships like this, signing ceremonies like this, the import of this is not in the signing and the ceremonial show of this, it's in the implementation and a detail as to whether or not we come into this partnership as equal partners. Mutually benefiting agreements ought to be reached. According to the minister, in defense of her, she had mentioned that this partnership, this document, this MOU was well thought out. It had experts who had looked at it, especially from the Nigerian side, to ensure that the terms of the agreement would favor both parties without any of them being in the disadvantage. But then the question is usually that when we sign these big agreements, especially around trade, which includes even import and export of our products to Nigeria, to the UK, how many of our Nigerian products how many manufacturers in Nigeria would be able to take advantage of these kinds of agreements? And this is where the work also comes in, to empower our local manufacturers, to empower our local entrepreneurs to be able to take full advantage of these kinds of agreements. So yes, the UK already has done their own homework, best believe that. It's now up to us. No one is going to speak for us. No one is going to give us, an easy ride in terms of telling us how to play or what to do. But I want to assume that as part of its efforts, the Nigerian government has done due diligence. And one of the ways in terms of really taking advantage of this, in terms of education, the school has been built. But how do we then export our own education to the UK? How many Nigerian schools do you see in the UK, as we've seen in Nigeria, where Charter House was established? So these are the kind of critical conversations that we should have. So we have their own, they say there's some technical issues that were handled when it comes to trade between both nations. What are those technical issues and how can Nigeria take advantage of it? Intellectual property, art, how do we do it? We have a lot of importation of UK services and goods. How can we ensure that Nigeria is also Nigerians are fully equipped to take advantage of these agreements? I believe that it's great. Congratulations to the federal government and of course the Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment. But beyond that, there have been many agreements signed in this administration. It is the implementation of these agreements that counts the most. Move on to our final story. Dorman Long Engineering Limited celebrated its 75th year anniversary on Tuesday night in Lagos, where members of the management team reminisced on the company's journey in contributing to the Nigerian economy in its almost 4 decades of existence. They were joined by guests including the Minister of State for Steel Development, Uba Megeri Amadu, to unveil a new brand identity for Dorman Long, which promises a more rewarding future for its stakeholders.
A night of raised glasses in celebration of an iconic brand that has existed for 75 years. Founded in 1949 and undergoing various transformations, Dorman Long has been there through the thick and thin of the Nigerian operating environment and contributed in no small measure, building some iconic engineering masterpieces along the line.
Niger Bridge you see today, the structural steel was done by Dorman Long. It will also interest you to know that the Dangote sugar plant in Apapa was built by Dorman Long. So Dorman Long transited from structural steel company to process manufacturing company for the oil and gas.
This event venue is just one of many such projects. The list is long, just like the name and years of existence of the company. Tonight, it's a recognition of the success and Dorman Long's spirit of collaboration.
In 75 years, we've been through ups and downs, through cycles of economic changes, and we've stood strong and resilient, and we're still here today.
This day is significant because we come into a business at a very short period of time, which has a history that spans 75 years, with an engineering excellence that is unparalleled in Nigeria.
From the early days of laying the foundation stories of our nation's industrial landscape to your current role in shaping the future of sub-Saharan Africa. You have consistently pursued the highest standards.
While celebrating its past achievements, Oman Long, now a wholly indigenous company, has its eyes on the future, and this is how it plans to navigate that future, which begins now.
3, 2, 1. Our brand new Oman Long brand identity.
We have the foundation that will enable us become even more important and successful than we have been so far. So we are supporting many of the big companies that are involved in civil construction in Nigeria today. We are going back to supporting the agricultural sector to provide grain silos and so on, so that we have strategic reserves of the things that we need. So we are in many ways retracing our steps, going back to our roots to make sure that we are able to be as relevant to the whole of Nigeria as we've always been.
It is a brand that has indeed been part of Nigeria's history. The event here marks a recommitment to that relationship while also expanding its service of excellence to other African countries.
Congratulations, Oman Long.